In 2023, we interviewed Jesse Smith whilst he toured the UK with a classic rock show. But this year in 2024, he's released an album and is also embarking on a UK tour. Stand by for our interview with Jesse Smith. So Jesse Smith, welcome back to Gigs and Guitars. What have you been up to this year? What have you been doing?
Oh, it's been such a busy year so far. I basically from the 7th of January, I've been on tour. So I think I've been at home for about 3 weeks since the start of January. We did 2 months in the UK and Europe with the classic rock show, and then we had a little bit of time off, and then we went to America for a month. We then got back, and I managed to squeeze in a few days in the studio before going back out on the road with a show called the London Symphonic Rock Orchestra, which was in the UK and Ireland. And then as soon as that finished, I managed to sneak a week in Greece with my girlfriend, who was quite happy to see me. And then I came back, and I've literally just last week done the first gig for my new 1971 show. So it's been a very busy first half of the year so far, Kevin.
Fantastic. It sounds like a really busy year. Jesse, I'm going to take my glasses off. So for long distance, I can't even see what I'm reading, to be honest. So, okay, so what I've done, Jesse, is I've made some really quick kind of notes, really. So Friday, 7th of June, you've got something coming up. So what can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so as we record, this is the 5th of June. So in 2 days' time, my album is going to be available everywhere. And essentially, it's been quite a long campaign. As an unsigned sort of independent artist, you're always kind of questioning what to do, what the best way of releasing music is in 2024. And I'm kind of old school in my ethos in a lot of things, but I've kind of just wanted to, honestly, I just wanted to make as much money as I could from it. And so basically I released it on CD first. I've now done a vinyl campaign, and both of which went great. So I'm really happy. Do you know what? I've got them here. I'll show you.
Oh yes, absolutely. Let's have a look.
So this is the CD. So this came out first.
Yeah.
And then this is the vinyl edition, which has been on sale for about a month now, I think. And then basically I wanted to wait as long as possible to put it on Spotify. I mean, I could sit here and talk about the kind of morality and ethics of putting music online all day, but for me right now it's kind of a line in the sand for me with this project, because I finished the album about 2 years ago. But it's what's exciting for me is that there'll be obviously a world full of people that haven't heard it, and what putting it online is a great shop window, you know. So it's I think a lot of people who haven't heard it are going to be able to hear it now, and that's exciting, you know. But I still feel a bit weird about giving it away for free. But there we go. Yeah. It's gonna be online, and people can stream it and download it wherever they are in the world. So that's quite exciting for me. So yeah, that's coming out in 2 days' time, and I'm super proud of it. And I hope everyone goes and listens to it.
Yeah, and so you should as an artist, Jesse. You know, I have to say I've seen you a few times performing live. Fantastic singer, vocalist. That's obviously doing the tribute kind of shows like the classic rock show and other things. But this is you, you know. And who inspires you as a musician, Jesse, to actually sit down and compose or write music? Who's your go-to kind of sort of people for inspiration?
I think it's a funny one, because I think I was always a songwriter. I know that sounds cheesy, but I kind of started learning how to play guitar so that I could sing my own songs. And because I was writing poems from like the age of about 11 or 12, I think, you know. So I always kind of think of myself as a songwriter first, but obviously the way my career's gone has led me into sort of being a bit more well known for being this kind of rock touring vocalist, which I love, and obviously that's brilliant. But so basically my songwriting inspirations are people like Paul McCartney. Obviously later on it became people like Bowie. I love bands like Snow Patrol. When they were sort of a bit massive band of mine when I was growing up. Kings of Leon were kind of a big one when I was a teenager. And then people like Joni Mitchell, I just love great songs with great melodies. That's why I'm such a big Beatles fan. Um, but however, the album we kind of because of what I was just talking about sort of being known as this rock singer, we wanted to dress the album up in a kind of interesting way. So as soon as anything got rock, and by rock I mean distorted guitars or anything felt like it was building to a rock crescendo. Um, we actually had we called it the Bon Joviometer. So
Right.
anytime it sounded remotely like Bon Jovi, we would just scrap it and put it in the bin and put something else on. So, so,
I love it.
so yeah, so essentially the album is a singer-songwriter record with a rock and roll ethos, and our kind of recording inspiration for it were artists like Eels, Beck, Radiohead, that kind of slightly wonky, alternative, angular sound. And I think
Yeah.
we've done a good job of achieving that. Because my music isn't really um it isn't, it could easily be dressed up in a kind of more 80s rock kind of way or a country way, or so we
Yeah.
try to
Yeah.
get away from that and make it weird and hopefully interesting to people.
Well, that sounds great. So obviously that's out Friday the 7th of June. You've already mentioned today is the 5th of June, so we've got 2 days, 48 hours, songs from a concrete box. So where can people buy the vinyl and from at the minute? If they haven't already got it, where can they buy it from?
Yeah, so it's available on my website, which is jessysmithuk.com, and obviously all the links are on my social media. It's also on Bandcamp. So yeah, they can get it there.
Fantastic. Well, that sounds really good. I'll be looking forward to that, to be honest. So not only with that, Jesse, I've been going through your social media, and you've been really sort of busy with other kind of stuff. But in supporting your album, Songs from a Concrete Box, you've also got a bit of a tour kickstarting in July, haven't you, as well? So
Yeah, exactly. And these gigs, honestly, they're some of the most fulfilling gigs I've ever done. I've been so lucky in my career, Kevin, where I've got to, play some huge venues and travel the world and stuff like that. But when I go and do an acoustic solo show, kind of what you just mentioned before, it's kind of me in my purest form. Um,
yes, yeah,
and someone actually asked me the other day, they were like, which do you prefer? And I was like, well, both are brilliant, but they're just so different. To me, it means the world to me if there's 30 people or, you know, dare I say 100 people coming to see me at one of my solo shows. And that just means the world to me because it means they're there to hear what I have to say. And I
yeah,
think musicians, that's what we crave. We want people to we want to be genuine and we want people to listen to what we have to say. So yeah, I've got these shows. I've done quite a few of these solo type shows now over the last few years since I started writing the album. And I think you probably got the dates there, but I think it's 5 or 6 in total. There's one just outside Birmingham in Stourbridge. There's Manchester, Cambridge, Edinburgh. I'm playing the Henley Festival. I've actually got another gig in Henley coming up, but I need to announce that I
right,
haven't announced
yeah.
it. So I'll have to let everyone know the date of that one. And this is an exclusive you can have. I haven't actually told anyone this, but I'm playing at the White Festival as well. Um, so yeah, I'll be back down at the Isle of Wight Festival.
Oh, well, that's really good news. That's fantastic. So that's in addition to your 6 dates, and just for people watching this show at the minute, it kicks off on the 5th of July at Cambridge, and it wraps up on the 25th of July in Stourbridge. Then there's the Isle of Wight after that, or
The
is
Isle of
it?
Wight, I think it's the weekend of the 20th that week, I think. But
Right,
the
yeah,
lineup's
yeah.
amazing, so I'm really looking forward to it. There's Crowded House playing and Pretenders and Green Day, so it's going to be a great weekend. I'm really looking
That is going
forward
to be
to it.
fantastic. That's going to be
I'm
brilliant. I'll
playing on
tell
the
you one of your
Sunday, so
dates. Yeah, one of your dates that's caught my eye, which I'm gonna have to. I'm probably gonna have to go to. You've got a date coming up at Salford, which isn't too far from us here at Blackpool. So yeah, that sounds good. Good to me. That does sound good. So okay, so Jesse, you're just such a mega busy person. So now, what attracted me this last week to your Instagram post was the 1971, the show. And so you had your first gig at the weekend. So how did that go? And how did it come about?
well, basically, I think again, it looks like I've prepared all these props, but I just happen to have it here. I about 2 years ago, I read this book, um, which is called 1971 Never a Dull Moment, Rock's Golden Year, and it's by an author called David Hepworth. And
Right.
I I was going through the book. It was recommended me by a friend of mine, James, and I was reading the book and I was going, wow, it's like all the best music ever seems to come from 1971. Led Zepp 4 came out that year. Who's Next came out that year. Tapestry, Blue, Joni Mitchell, Tapestry, Carole King, Mudslide, Slim James Taylor, all these incredible albums. There was amazing records by the Faces, Rod Stewart, American Pie came out that year. It's just an amazing period of time for creativity and music and artists. And I was just kind of blown away by this book. And all the time I was thinking, wow, this would be an amazing show. Um, Added to the fact that obviously it was such an interesting time politically and socially as well. The world was really changing. You had Vietnam going on,
Yeah.
so it was just it's just a really fascinating period for me, plus all of my favorite music. So I just thought it would be a great stage show and very different to, a lot of other things that I'm involved in. It's a listening gig,
Yeah.
it's asking a little more of the audience, not that I'm saying it's not fun, but I think there's definitely an audience and hopefully a gap in the market for a show that um that says things politically and that just has these beautiful, beautiful songs, songs like Vincent by Don McLean, songs like Blue by Joni Mitchell,
Yeah.
Imagine, Jealous Guy, the list is endless, of the amazing stuff that came out that year. So yeah, we did our first show and it was at the Pheasantry in Chelsea in London.
Yeah.
And it's sold out in 3 days, I think.
I was going to say I saw that on Instagram, and I thought, wow, that was rapid. That was really quick. But one question I've got is, how did you manage to pull it all together so quickly? You've had a busy time of it. Who are your go-to musicians and people that helped you? In terms of
Well, it wasn't that quickly actually. I've been, like I said, I read the book a couple of years ago, so it's been something that I've been thinking about for a long time and talking to people about. But yeah, basically, the first thing was booking the gig, So I got in touch with a lovely booker lady that I know, and once the date was in the diary, that kind of accelerated the process. So I obviously got in touch with the people that I thought would be great for the gig.
yeah,
Um, so Hayley Sanderson was on the gig with me. So she's an amazing singer. She works on Strictly Come Dancing with me, but she's an incredible artist in her own right.
right,
She's
yeah, yeah,
done with Rick Wakeman for the last, I think, 15 years or something. Um, and she's done backing vocals for, I don't even want to even attempt to do her CV, but Ronnie Wood and Dave Gilmour, people like that. She's always doing things at the Albert Hall and
wow,
these huge shows. So she's brilliant. So she came in on vocals and did the kind of female stuff. And then there's my buddy John Clifford Cox, who very similar taste in music to me, and we've been friends for a long time. He was in my band Legacy that I run, which is like my show band, and
yeah,
he just has the right knowledge and kind of temperament and everything to respect the music in the way that it needs to. So he's on bass and backing vocals, and he's been brilliant in helping me put it together. And then the the other guy in the band is a guy called Ollie Bryant, who works with me on my Led Zeppelin Symphonic show that I've been doing over the last few years.
yeah.
Um, and he's one of those guys that can kind of play everything. So basically anything that was too complicated for me to play on guitar or piano, he would play and
All
I do.
right, yeah,
So although I was really pushing myself to the limit on that gig. So Ollie's a brilliant guitar player, brilliant keys player as well. So
yeah.
and singing as well on the gig brilliantly. So yeah, he's fantastic. And then on drums is my friend CJ Evans, who's um he's definitely got the chops and the look, and he's a brilliant drummer, great person to have around. And so yeah, it's kind of the dream team really. It's an amazing bunch of people. So
Yes, sounds fantastic. Like I say, I mean, that was the first one. So you've sort of put a little bit of a hint on social media. have you got any planned in the future, or is it still work in progress, or where are you up to with it?
Yeah, so my plan now is to do some small theatres. That's my next kind of aim with it. I think that's where this is gonna live and work the best.
Mm.
So I really envisage it in in some classic old British theatres, So I've been in touch with the theatre that I've performed at several times that I think is just the perfect place to do the next show. So it'll be slightly bigger than the gig we just did. And then I think my plan as we speak, obviously this is subject to change, but is to book that, try and sell that out, and then probably film the show and do some promotion and then who knows, take it from there and hopefully book some more and see what happens.
Yeah, it sounds great. I've been keeping an eye on your social media since weekend, and there's been the odd sort of photographs that have popped up, and I'm thinking that looks a really good show. Looks really nicely put together, great lighting. I'd imagine the sound's fantastic, which is probably what it's all about. Because I mean, the sound makes a show, doesn't it? For like an artist and stuff, and the lighting enhances it. So in terms of, I saw you playing in one of your photographs. A great image it was of you, Jesse, and it's a black Strat. So I can't see it on your wall behind you. So what was that guitar?
Where is it? It's actually, I can show you it. I got my guitars right here. I've got a lot of guitars in this studio. So this is actually this one. So this it's kind of, you can see it's sort of like a natural wood kind of color that's sort of faded black.
That's it. Yeah.
This is actually a parts caster. So during COVID, I really wanted a Strat because I didn't own a Strat. And I've got a great friend called Richie who has a guitar workshop in East London.
Yeah.
And so he's like he looks after my guitars. And we basically spent 6 months buying parts from all over the world and putting it together because I wanted one of the kind of custom shop Fenders, but they're so expensive, and I just thought it'd be a fun project. I've never built my own guitar, so every single thing on this guitar was kind of chosen by me and my friend Richie. It's a Mexican,
brilliant.
It's a Mexican neck, and we were just searching reverb and picking up bits here and there, and buying pickups, and so it's a parts caster basically, but yeah, I've got obviously tons of guitars now,
Yeah, I mean, like I said, when I saw it in the photograph, because I mean, the photography of your show is just very, very nice. I thought, wow, it caught my eye, and I didn't realise it was a part caster, and I thought, is it going to be a vintage Strat from like the early 1960s or?
Yeah. I wish. I mean, I love this guitar, so you never know if I hopefully the show starts selling well, and then I can afford an old one. We were just in Nashville actually with a classic rock show, and we went to Gruen's Guitars, which is obviously a really famous old guitar shop in Nashville, and I just fell in love with this. I think it was a 58 Telecaster. It was a blonde one, and I just couldn't stop playing it, and I was like, oh, and I think it was. I might have got the date wrong, but I'll have to look back at my pictures. But I think it was like 38 grand or something like that. Maybe it was a 60. I can't remember, but it was beautiful,
Well, I have to say that guitar that you've built there with your friend, that's got the love or the attention. It's got the hunt for the parts for it. There's a lot of soul in that guitar. Like I say, if you bought a custom shop off the wall at whatever retailer it's going to be, that guitar wouldn't have what your guitar's got in it, and it's also got some kudos about it now because it's doing live shows with you. I would say stick with that.
Kind, isn't it, as well? Which I love. So, yeah, you know what they say about guitars. They kind of choose you, and that one kind of just appeared. We just made it. We gave birth to it, so to speak. So yeah.
That's fantastic. So next sort of bit on my list, Jesse. You've already hinted on I can't talk now. You've hinted about the London Symphonic Rock Orchestra. Have you got any more dates coming up with that? Where are you with that at the minute? So
basically that show is a new it's a show that's been going for a while, but that's had a rebrand and a new name. And so I came into this new version of the show. So but they've been playing together for many years, and they're all fantastic classical musicians, and essentially play rock songs. Um, and the whole kind of USP of the show is that there's no guitars, no keyboards.
Yeah.
Um, and it's all these rock songs are done on orchestral instruments. So, they'll be doing the guitar solo to Trooper by Iron Maiden on a viola,
Yeah.
or the We Will Rock You solo on a violin, or Do Hast by Rammstein on the trombone. So it's quite
Yeah,
a cool
yeah.
concept. Yeah, I basically came in and did a short tour with them. It was 2 weeks, I guess about a month ago now, and it was really good fun. Um, Kind of funny enough, a little heavier than I'm used to singing. I'm used to
Right.
doing
Yeah.
rocks, but this was I had to do Rage Against the Machine and Metallica and Iron Maiden. But it was good fun. And I think we've got a tour coming up in autumn in Scandinavia, which should be
Yeah.
fun. Which they're advertising already. I think there's about 2 weeks or 2 or 3 weeks worth of shows in the autumn. So yeah, that should be fun.
Okay, so just one thing on that. You've mentioned you're singing different material, and obviously the background support for that is very different than, say, for example, the classic rock show. Is your approach to doing the vocals any different to that of the classic rock show? Is it any harder, any more difficult?
I think my approach vocally is always very similar, regardless of what I'm doing, to be honest. I kind of, my process is I will get the material and then I'll just listen to it on repeat. And that happens, the earlier the better. So the sooner I have
Yeah.
the music, the better. That's why something like Strictly is hard, because you don't get much time with the music.
Right.
But yeah, with both the classic rock show and the LSRO, I'll get the music, I'll listen to it for a few weeks, and then I try and start. I always write the lyrics out either by hand or on my iPad, and just make sure I've got every lyric, and
Yeah.
every little detail of the lyrics written out properly. Then I'll start singing along. Then I'll do. I usually just find karaoke tracks on YouTube and I just sing along to them. Obviously, if I'm
Yeah.
playing, I'll learn all my guitar parts and then sit and learn those. And then I just routine it, and I just go over and over it basically until I'm happy with it.
Well, that sounds
I
really good,
also
Jesse. It's
I
like I
also the
say.
last few. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just going to say, because I mean, we're in June now, and we're only 6 months through the year, and you've had an epic time of it so far.
60 shows this year so far.
How many?
60, 60. Yeah.
That's just amazing. That so yeah. I mean, what's the motivation for it all, Jesse? I mean, in terms of, say, for example, getting out of bed, creating your own music, going to do live shows. How motivated do you have to be to actually do that?
I mean, for me, I just absolutely love it, Kevin.
Yeah.
There's a certain contingency of musicians, especially session musicians who've been doing it for a long time, who kind of, there's this old adage, like, how do you make a musician moan? You give them a gig, you know. But for me, I genuinely still love it. I have this childhood kind of love for doing it, and I always try and treat it with respect. And honestly, I mean, I don't know if my girlfriend will listen to this, but we were on day 4 of our holiday in Kefalonia. It was absolutely beautiful, and I'm already itching to get back home to get to work, because I love it. I struggle to relax, honestly, but I've always been a person who's looking at what's next,
Yeah.
so I get excited about things. I've already, like you said, it's just started. We're in the beginning of June, and I'm already like, oh, what songs could we do with the classic rock show in January? I'm already thinking about it. And because I think the other thing is as well, when you're a self-employed musician like me, you have to be proactive. So
Yeah.
that's why I've got my fingers in a lot of pies, because you know in work sometimes will come to you. Obviously, I'm lucky that people approach me now and say, oh, I've got this song I want you to sing on, I want you to come on this tour. And it does happen that way. But if you're watching this and you've got a gig for me, please get in touch. But But
Well,
you know, you have to keep looking for the next thing and the next thing, you know. And I love that, you know, it really energizes me. I'm excited about it.
Yeah. So you were a hands-on person, Jesse, or have you got like an agent or a publicist or a management kind of company or anything, or is it all just down to yourself?
Yeah, I mean, it's all down to myself, really. Obviously, with something like the Classic Rock Show, that's a much bigger team of people, of course. And in that, I'm very much a hired gun, so I don't have. It's actually lovely to not have any responsibility. All I have to
yeah,
do is go in, obviously give my opinion musically, give my opinion about the set list, but essentially my job is to go out and sing and be a frontman. So that's lovely.
yeah,
And then other projects like my 1971 gig, you know, I'm in charge. So I'm the one that makes those decisions. I'm the one that has to book the venues. And if I don't do anything, things don't happen. And that is
yeah,
even more the case with something like my solo project, you know. With that, it's just me. You know, I've had help from friends in the past. My friend Emily booked some gigs for me a couple of years ago. Um, but I think when you're an independent artist, nobody is going to put as much time and effort in as you are, you know. So you
that's
you
right.
have to
Yes.
you have to be proactive, you know, and you have to just go and make things happen, you know, and you have to be willing to spend money as well to make things happen, you know, hence the
Yeah,
vinyl and all that sort of thing, you know. If you want a vinyl, you got to go and make it happen. And that, you know, just getting a vinyl made, I mean, the process is pretty full on. You know, you have to obviously get the artwork
yeah.
done. You have to
So,
get
so
the
I can
lacquer
imagine.
made.
Yeah, so I can imagine if you're on holiday with your partner, you've got these plates spinning in your mind. I've got this, that, and the other to do, and you might find a quick 20 minutes to make a few phone calls or drop a couple of emails or something while you are on holiday. It's the kind of thing I do. I'm always thinking about.
I actually didn't do that this time, but I had to make a real conscious effort. I actually took my email and my WhatsApp off of my phone while I was on holiday. I had to delete the apps
Yeah,
because I really wanted to give myself a kind of um, mental break as well as a physical one. So that was kind of really important, actually, you know. And you know, also, you know, when we're at home, obviously I'm working a lot and I do find it difficult to switch off from time to time. So I
yeah.
thought that was important for mine and my partner's relationship as well. So I actually made a conscious effort this time around to really switch off from social media. I didn't post anything either while I was away. You know, so yeah, I think that's important as well to try and switch off sometimes, but you know, I'm not that good at that, to be honest.
Yeah, it is one of those things where that I find it a little bit difficult to do. That sounds like you've got yourself, you know, you're able to do. I mean, for example, on the channel here, I'll wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning with a bit of an idea, and I think I'm going to try and do that, and then other things spin around in my mind. I've suddenly realised I've had like 2 hours sleep. Do you suffer from that as well? You know?
I have done in the past. I'm the one thing I'm very good at is sleeping, I have to be honest. So I'm very lucky like that. And I don't sleep great on a tour bus, but apart from that, if I sort of really value my sleep. If I don't sleep properly, I'm very grumpy the next day. So
Yeah,
but I mean sometimes I'll wake up with song ideas in my head. I've done that quite regularly. You know, I've got like loads of voice notes on my phone of random melodies I might have dreamed up or
yeah,
um and but yeah, I mean, for sure, you know, especially when you're working on projects and you know your brain's going at night time, isn't it? I mean, the night before a big show, I mean, the night of we did a rehearsal the day before our 1971 show, and I woke up I think at 6:45, which is much earlier than I normally wake up, just because I was so excited. You know, it was quite cute, and you know, it's like it was almost like Christmas Eve. You know, I was like just really excited about it. You know, because I love it.
yeah.
You know. So I actually got up and I went for a 5K run before the rehearsal.
So, Jesse, tell me this. You've worked with O Slip before, and I believe there might have been some kind of book-related activity going on last night in London. So, what was all that about?
So,
Yeah, I've been super lucky in my career to sort of end up working with quite a few people that have worked with David Bowie, which is obviously pretty amazing. So I mean, first back in 2017, had the great privilege of working with an amazing guitar player called Kevin Armstrong,
yeah,
um, who he was on Absolute Beginners and he played at Live Aid with David Bowie, and and then a few years later, I ended up working with El Slick, and both of them have released books in the last year. But
right.
and So it's kind of amazing. They're both brilliant books. I've just started reading. I've got it here actually. I just started reading Vicky's book, but he only gave it to me last night. So it's this book, and yeah, I mean, so but basically the connection is that a friend of mine, Tom Wilcox, about I think it was about 5, 6 years ago now. We were at a party, and he said to me, "Do you know anyone who could interview and sort of tour manage Earl Slick on this tour?" And I didn't have any gigs coming up, and I was like, I could probably do that, just the confidence of youth sort of thing.
Yeah.
So basically what happened was I ended up thrown into this situation where I was in a car with, arguably one of the greatest blues rock guitar players ever. For like 3 weeks in a car, just me and him in a car. So we really got to know each other really well, and we became really, really great friends. And I mean, yeah. So basically, he's just written this book, and it's in the charts at the moment. So he's doing this sort of little book tour around the UK.
Right. So what's the book called, Jesse? What's it titled as?
I think it's just called Guitar Earl Slick by the looks of it.
Right.
But it's Life and Music with David Bowie, John Lennon, and rock and roll's greatest heroes.
Wow.
And yeah, he signed it for me, bless him. He gave this when I turned up to him yesterday.
Oh,
fantastic. It says, Jesse, enjoy the road, my good mate Slicky. So very sweet, brilliant. Very sweet of him.
So when you say you spent 3 weeks in a car with Earl Slick, how was that? I mean, it's you've obviously got the guy in the car. I mean, was there anybody else in the car with you, or was it just you and him spending?
Literally the two of us. So the tour that we did, it was a tour of speaking engagements. So basically, I'm assuming it's the stories that are in this book I'm sort of just started reading, but essentially he's got a brilliant life story, and he basically was doing these gigs where we turn up at the Colchester Arts Centre or the Cavern in Liverpool, wherever it was, and we'd basically sit on stage, the two of us in two chairs with a little amp set up, and my job was to ask him about his life in the industry, so you can imagine I learned so much from him, but I actually learned probably even more on the car journeys, because I got the unfiltered version, and and we just became great friends. And then a couple of years later, we did the same tour again, and I was even more involved that time in terms of like the booking and everything. And then just after COVID, we booked this tour, which was going to be called the Earl Slick Band, and we were going to go out on the road and play all hits from his career. And unfortunately, he got ill, so we had to cancel it in the end. But yeah, basically, he's sort of like I'm sure he wouldn't appreciate me saying this, but he's kind of my rock and roll granddad. Do you know what I mean? He's like this, he's he's in his 70s now, but he's an amazing person and an amazing guitar player. He can pick up any guitar, and he does regularly. He'll go and get like an 80 quid guitar from somewhere, and he picks it up and starts playing it, and you're like, why does that guitar sound amazing? It's just all in his fingers, and also, the other guy I was talking about, Kevin, he's been a great friend of mine since we did this project called Gutter Dammering together. And he's been such an inspiration for me as well. So to have the two of those guys in my life kind of as mentors has meant a lot. I've actually funnily enough, I've actually got Kevin's book right here as well. So I've got it right here. So yeah, they're both really brilliant and really funny. So yeah, I just thought I'd mention those because of obviously this is a guitar channel, and those two for me are, they're those typical sort of sidemen that maybe they don't maybe have the fame that someone like Slash does or something like that, but the records that those guys have played on, it's unbelievable that the amount of records that they've played on that your audience will know and love.
So essentially, you've got two basically sort of stars there, the sidemen of sort of rock and roll. Really, they've both written great books. In terms of your personal journey with them, what have you taken from either of those two people to basically to learn from, to create your skill in terms of performing even better?
I think you pick up little things, don't you? I think that the first thing that springs to mind with Slicky is his kind of his attitude towards life and music. I mean, he's from Brooklyn, New York, so he has this
Yeah.
kind of you attitude, about sort of everything. Um, and he also always looks great, you know.
Yeah.
He'll FaceTime me, and it'll be, I'll be like, "What time is it there?" And it'll be 6:30 in the morning, and he's got his sunglasses on and beads, and he always looks like a rock star, no matter what time of day or night.
Brilliant.
And Kevin, actually, in the book and on the audio book, which I implore people to go buy, Kev has this kind of rules, which is as brilliant as they are hilarious. But yeah, there's one, basically always bring enough money for you and for the person that's forgot, and
Right.
and I think Dress Sharp is one of his as well. But I mean, musically, I've learned so much from those guys.
Yeah.
Kev especially, because I've done quite a few gigs with Kevin. Yeah, man, they're just, I mean, they're legends of the game. So
Yeah.
you learn a lot from those guys. Yeah, for sure.
Well, that's fantastic. I mean, I say if you're picking up sort of good vibes from the people that have been around the block a few times, that industry, working with the greats, then you can basically soak all that in and use that in your day-to-day sort of business connections and making great music. So let me take you back to, say, for example, the classic rock show at the minute. So you've done, I mean, for the people that probably watch my channel, there's a good number of people that actually follow the classic rock show. And that has been a bit of a bigger tour this year than it has been previously. So what happened this year? Why was it so different?
I think we're just kind of expanding and trying to reach more people and more territories. We've been playing together in this lineup for, is it the fourth year since we've had Tim and Pete, I think.
Yeah.
And so we really feel like a band, and we're so close and we get on so well and we love what we do. So I think the natural progression is to go and try and play more places, to go and conquer America, So we did our kind of regular tour in the UK, and on that, I think there's been tours in the past where, and this can be difficult sometimes for people to understand, but we've done longer tours in the UK before,
Yeah.
and sometimes it's really tough because we're doing so many gigs with so little time off that I think the quality of the show has actually suffered, because we get ill.
Yeah.
And we're absolutely exhausted, and I think the previous tour, so it was still a great tour and we loved it, but we were all kind of ill and all a bit battered, and
Yeah.
so what
Yeah.
we decided to do this time, and it's not like it was my decision, but it was kind of a group decision, I think, with us and CMP and the band, was to do kind of the bigger sized venues, the better ones. And I know that means for some people that we might not be in their hometown, we
Yeah.
might not be in the smaller theaters that we once were. But I think just for our health and our mental health and our voices, I think that was kind of essential. So, and what that did by making it a little shorter meant all the gigs were amazing this year. I mean, every gig on
Yeah.
the tour was a wicked gig. And then we had a little break, and then we were able to go to Europe, and we just did 3 shows in Europe. We did a couple in the Netherlands, and then we did Helsinki in Finland. And again, all 3 of those shows were sold out and they were amazing. So hopefully we'll do some more in Europe next year. And then of course we went to America, which for me was like a dream come true,
Yeah.
incredible experience. I've never toured in America before, been to America many times, and
Yeah.
traveled about a bit, but I've never had the opportunity to go and tour there. So that was a real experience.
So what was the reaction from the American audiences over there to the classic rock show, which has just suddenly turned up across the pond? How were you basically, was it a good positive thing? We're going to see more of that?
Absolutely. I mean, they went absolutely wild, if anything, it was sort of I think the reaction was probably, I mean, I think UK crowds are probably a little more reserved than the Americans in general anyway. But I mean, we still get some amazing crowds in the UK, don't get me wrong. But I think the difference was because we haven't, the Class Rock show, full disclosure, went there 8 years ago before me and Pete were in the band. So and
Yeah.
Tim. So we kind of we the running joke was that we've never been here before, but actually they had been there. I think they did 8 shows back 8 years ago. And Banksy was also, oh, we did come here, but it was that I was there. I did the tour. And we were like, nah, it didn't happen, mate. But anyway, so but essentially, because it was a long time ago, and this band is very different to the lineup then, and the set list and everything's different. We were essentially playing to 90% of the people we were playing to for the first time. So the difference is that there's always this nervous energy that you have to prove yourself again. And every time you go to a new territory, that happens, and I
Yeah.
love because it's like it's almost that first day at school energy, and everyone sort of ups their game and has to prove themselves. Because when we walk out on stage in Liverpool, for example, we've played there 8 times in the last 4 years or whatever it is,
Yeah.
or 10 times, so we love it there, but they're already on our side, they know who we are. We walk out and they
Yeah.
scream and shout, and it's brilliant. But the vibe was different because we had to prove ourselves all over again, and the reaction was pretty amazing actually. Even on, some of the gigs were totally sold out, some of them weren't as busy, but even on the ones that weren't as busy, the reaction was wild. So we had a brilliant time, and we got to explore America a bit as well, which was for me, like I mentioned Nashville earlier. Get to hang out in Nashville for me was brilliant, and New York, places like that. So it was just a great trip all round, really.
It sounds like a bit of a dream tour, to be honest. Now, one thing I've picked up on this year is that CMP are evolving the show. The stage layout's changed this year. Tim Brown is now on a huge drum riser in the middle of the stage. Pete Thorne's got a rack of Sir cabinets there, and James has gone vintage with his Marshall 4x12 with a head on it. And I noticed he's still got 633 engineering head in the background in the wings there, just in think if anything goes wrong.
Yeah.
So in terms of the stage layout, how's that gone down this year to the previous kind of stage layouts you've had? Is it a massive improvement, or has it been a bit problematic?
I think it's been brilliant. I mean, for me, I'm a rock and roll guy through and through. I grew up going to Reading Festival every single year, and I've seen, hundreds and hundreds of bands, and it's just in my blood. So I'm used to the volume. I'm used to singing in little clubs with loud amps and terrible PAs, So,
Yeah.
and I think a lot of that is Pete's influence as well, because Pete's obviously been doing it a long time as well. And essentially what we want to do is deliver an authentic rock experience. I know Pete, because Pete's very vocal about this, but I feel the same way. I don't want to deliver a watered down version of a rock and roll show. And I know that when you go and see Queen, or you go and see, Motorhead when Lemmy was still alive, or any of these bands, it's loud, and it's supposed to be,
Yeah.
but there's this thing about, modern stages and modern sound engineers when it comes to Kempers and electric drums and synth pads and things like that. And the engineers, they want a quieter stage most of the time, because it means that it's easier to mix out front, because you get less spill, right? But music is supposed to have spill. We when we were in Detroit, we went to Hitsville, where obviously was the home of Motown, and the studio where they recorded all those records was not much bigger than this room. It was about
Right.
it was about 4 times the size of this room. It was tiny, and they used to record drums and vocals and horns and bass and guitar all in the same room. Music is about people playing together and having energy and passion. And so for me, having it louder, having a bigger stage, more space to play with, more amps. I mean, I'm all for it, man. That more is more. It's rock and roll.
That's it.
So you've probably explained why you've got, say, for example, James and Pete Thorne. this year, and a bit part way through the tour last year, they then started putting the baffles in front of the amplification.
Yeah.
To basically sort of water down because James Cole mentioned to me, because we always managed to bag a front row seat in Liverpool, and he said, "How is it, Kev? We're blowing your heads off." Well, to be honest, you're not. And then later on in the tour, so they got the Perspex baffles there, and I think that's all about managing what you've just mentioned there. But basically, you are a rock band doing iconic hits, and you want to get that authentic vibe of musicians playing together on a stage. So yeah, it's a bit tricky, isn't it?
I think a lot of shows these days sort of underestimate the audience as well, because all these guys who come to see us are massive rock and roll fans. They know what a rock and roll show is. They've been to see all these bands over decades. So they don't mind that it's loud. I've never had one person say it was too loud. So but of course, things like baffles help with the sound a little bit. And it obviously it depends where you're sat in the audience. If you're right in front of the amplifier, it might be a bit louder, and if you're in the front row, obviously quite often you're underneath our big PA system. So it might sound clearer or better if you're sat nearer the back of the room or in the middle of the room, for example. But essentially you'll come to see a rock show, and I think we deliver it with passion and energy, and I've never heard anyone said it was too loud.
I have to say, and I've mentioned this to James before now, it's probably the best sort of sound I've sort of experienced, and I am basically a bit of a critique of sound. Sound can destroy a show if it's just not right or too loud or whatever, but every time I've seen anything from CMP, that the sound levels have just been quality. And that allows you guys to basically deliver a great show. The lighting is very good. The stage layout's brilliant. I love the people that are actually delivering it on stage, not forgetting the boys and girls in the background doing what they need to do to support the show. So what can we expect perhaps in 2025, Jesse? What ideas are being bandied around with this sort of closely guarded secrets at the minute?
Yeah, well, it's always a big secret, because people are gagging to know. But I mean, it's only June, so honestly, we haven't really started speaking about it yet. But on the last tour, there's a few things I'd like to do for sure. I mean, there's bands that we always will do certain songs of. I'd love to do a new Zeppelin song. I'm not going to say what it is, but I mean, we've done Kashmir in the past. We did Stairway on this last tour, but because Freebird is kind of our signature song, I think we played it once or twice and then dropped it. And just because it was like you had Stairway to Heaven, then Freebird, and they kind of did the same thing. They're not. I'm not saying they're exactly the same song, but it was like slow, melodic, emotional build up to a very long guitar solo. So we decided to go with rock and roll, and in the end, and Black Dog. On the American tour, but I'd love to do some Zeppelin we haven't done before.
So if I'm going to try and tie you down now, Jesse, what would you like to do in terms of Zeppelin in the classic rock show? What would you like to do?
I mean, probably my favorite live recording ever is Zeppelin doing I can't even think of the title of the song now. Since I've Been Loving You on How the West Was Won.
Yes.
And I don't know if we'll end up doing it, but that's kind of, if you ask me right now, that's what I would love to do. I just love that song, and I think Zeppelin were kind of on fire during that period. And that song in particular, you've got you've got all four elements. You've got the keys, obviously the organ, guitar, and the drums on it are just amazing. So yeah, who knows, maybe we'll do a bit of that.
I'm with you on that one, and I'm not sure whether you've seen it or not, but it's been knocking about on YouTube for a few years now. But Europe do a very good live version of that, and the guitar work is just amazing. If you've not seen it, check it out, guys. And that is just absolutely unbelievable. But if you do that next year, you'll have got what you wanted, and the audience would really appreciate that. So yeah, James Cole, if you're watching, that's one for your list.
One. I don't know, because I'm so deep down the Zeppelin rabbit hole. I've been a massive fan of Zeppelin. I've sung songs for a long time. I obviously do a Led Zeppelin symphonic show, which is actually now officially licensed by Led Zeppelin, which is brilliant. So we're
Brilliant.
hopefully going to have some more gigs with that coming very soon. I'm really excited about that. But yeah, I'm so down the rabbit hole. I sort of sometimes lose perspective about which songs are really super famous and which ones people might not know. Because
Yes.
that's the balance we always have to strike with a classic rock show. It is, you know, there might be a song that we love, but it might not necessarily be that well known. And obviously, you have to do songs that we try and do a balance of songs that we know the audience are going to love, you know, big hits.
Yeah.
So that somebody who might be a casual rock and roll fan who just fancied a night out is going to come, and then also do some deep cuts for the super fans who are going to know the, for example, if Pete does some crazy Van Halen thing, or whatever it might be.
Yeah, I'm just going to come on to YYZ there, which is obviously Rush, which we all know.
Song in the show I'm not involved in.
That's it. But again, you can see Pete Thorne's influence on basically saying, but let's pull out this Rush track out, a hugely technical track. I remember watching that in you guys rehearsing last year when I was privileged to go to soundcheck, and Tim Brown was right. Come on, guys, we've got the ending. We've got to get this ending absolutely nailed on this. And I was thinking, wow, this is just immense, so technical, and you guys pulled it off, So yeah, it's just amazing. So if I can take you back to Cambridge this time last year, Jesse, and it was the live filming for a DVD. We all got the invitation to go there, steaming, red hot night, if I recall. So how did you find that compared to doing the live show in its normal sense?
Well, obviously, as soon as that red button goes on, there's an added pressure, of course. But we did. It was a couple of months since we played together as well. We only had one day, the day before, to kind of recap everything. So that obviously it was kind of full of pressure. But I actually really enjoyed the gig. I think the main difference was the fact that it was standing. Because nearly all of our shows are seated.
Yes.
People tend to get up towards the end of the show, and actually in America especially, people were often up dancing in the first set, which was brilliant, because we encourage that wholeheartedly. But
Yeah.
doing a standing show was a great experience, actually, because we don't often do that with the classic rock show. So I'd actually like to do more of that. But then again, we've done a couple of festivals and things that have been standing, which have been great, but you obviously have to tailor the set list to make it make sense. It's harder to do the more dramatic ballady things if people are standing, I guess. But
Yeah.
it was
Well,
great.
that's
Great
it.
fun.
It was a great night. I just remember it being really stifling red hot. But I remember there's a bloke stood behind me, Jesse, and I was literally I was at the front again, and it turned out to be your dad.
Oh, I don't know how he manages. Everyone who comes to any gig I do say, "Oh, I was stood next to your dad." I think he just goes round the audience telling people he's my dad. Do you know what? I'm so lucky, Kevin, to be brought up in a household where I had so much support from my family. My dad is super proud.
You've took the words out of my mouth, because I was going to say that very thing. Your dad is so proud of you and what you've achieved. I could see it in it. He was just watching and taking it all in,
Yeah. Well, my mum's the same. My mum's very quiet, and she would just sit there quietly and soak it all in, and then text me and say how proud she is. But it's weird because I don't come from a musical family at all, really. My mum owned a guitar, but she's got quite a good quite a nice voice, actually. But my dad's a massive music fan, so he was always playing music in the house. But essentially, I don't really know where it came from. I just always loved singing and loved music, and I definitely wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't for their support. I bearing in mind I was an 18-year-old who did pretty well at school. I was pretty academic. I got got A's and B's and all my GCSEs and my A levels, and then to basically be headstrong enough to go, I'm not going to university. I'm going to be in a band. And move into a house with my mates and just go off on tour, which is essentially what I did. you know, that I'm very lucky to have had parents that were that supportive, you know. I mean, part of me goes, maybe I should have gone to uni, you know, but I probably would have gone to music college if I'd have gone, but I've got a bit of a chip on my shoulder about not having gone now. But
Yeah.
but um but you know, they've always just been so supportive, and you know, would always drive me to gigs, as well as I've got an uncle who's not an uncle, but that I call him Uncle Mark,
Yeah.
but he's my dad's cousin's Mary's husband, and he used to drive my first band, The Quotes, around in a van, you know. So I had lots of support and lots of some brilliant people around who sort of helped me get to where I am today, you know.
So we had a bit of a band get together the other night, and we just played a cover band around Blackpool, and we talk about how we can possibly improve our set even more and improve what we're doing. But what often comes up in the conversation is that we chose our career paths, which meant we only got a limited time of the day to concentrate on like music, if we have time at all. You've chosen your career path to concentrate on it full time. And it's a nice topic to sort of cover, and that for me is trying to understand the professional musician, the original artist, the inspiration in writing, producing albums like you are, Jesse, at the minute. You've got your album coming out in a couple of days' time. That for me is something I like to understand, and basically understand what you go through to actually get a product to market and be successful and be motivated. And that's just brilliant. And I love what you're doing. And just, yeah, well done.
Oh, thank you, mate.
Yeah.
I think, you know, when it comes to the original artist stuff, it's, you know, it sounds cheesy, but it really is kind of a necessity. And I feel like the writing process and writing and releasing your own music, as hard as it is, that kind of justifies everything else that I do for me, because I feel like I'm an artist in my own right, you know. So when I'm off doing the Classic Rock Show or Led Zeppelin Symphonic or the London Symphonic Rock Orchestra or Strictly or whatever it is I'm working on, if anyone comes and says, "Oh, I really enjoyed that performance," you know, my answer is often, "Thank you so much. You know, please go and listen to my music," because that's why I started doing it in the first place, was to write songs and, you know, that sort of thing. But I mean, yeah, I'm very lucky, obviously, in that my professional, you know, my job is to go out and sing rock songs, you know. So, and then obviously I do some session work and stuff. I get to, you know, I end up on adverts and things and bits and bobs on TV, which I can do from here, you know, in my little studio here. You know, I'm very, very lucky to be able to do both, you know. And there's no right or wrong answer. You just have to have thick skin and be willing to just keep going and keep looking for the new thing in the next gig. And, you know, but yeah, I love it. So thanks for saying so.
Well, that's great, Jesse, and it's been a great chance to have a catch up with you. You know, I'm sure people will love watching this and hearing what you've got to say. Guys, make sure you go out and buy his album. It's out in 2 days' time. He's got a tour coming up beginning of July. 6 dates it is. We've mentioned that earlier. So thanks, Jesse. Wish you all the very best for your tour and your sales and whatever comes along with the Classic Rock Show. We'll catch up with you later on in the year. At some stage. I think I might try and get to your Salford show. I might try and do that. I'll speak to Michelle and see what's what. But there we have it, guys. Jesse Smith on Gigs and Guitars for the second time.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much for having me, Kevin.
Well, thank you to Jesse Smith for taking the time out of his busy schedule to talk to us today on Gigs and Guitars about his album and his forthcoming UK tour. Just to let you know, just to recap, Songs from a Concrete Box is out now on all streaming platforms. Don't forget you can buy the vinyl from Bandcamp. And the UK tour kicks off on the 5th of July at Cambridge. And since we filmed the video with Jesse, I've actually been out and bought some tickets. So I'll probably bump into you at one of the shows. So I'll hopefully see you there. If you've enjoyed this edition of Gigs and Guitars, please like, share, subscribe. And 90% of our viewers on this channel are not subscribed, so please hit that subscribe button. It's just there, it doesn't cost you anything, and it will help the channel out. Anyway, from this edition of Gigs and Guitars, we shall see you next time. Goodbye!